call it the three legends. Well, Malcolm's disappeared, Gatesy's disappeared, Mickey Horsfall's disappeared. Anyway, I'd like to thank you for joining us on Facebook and YouTube Live. Obviously, it's about North East football. I concentrate on borough after borough games, and I do my podcasts, which involves everybody every Monday. But can Newcastle win their first trophy in a long, long time? There's the question. On the subject of cups, Middlesbrough's game at the Riverside on Saturday, I was there to witness it as I do every borough game. Does the 5-1 drubbing prove the gulf between Premiership and Championship sides? Can Sunderland realistically finish in the top six? I mean, Muggers did well since he came in. He's had injuries and strikers came back for the loan periods. The lad went back to Everton. So can they finish in the top six? Can Hartlepool go on a run and get out of that bottom three? And can Darlington, can they keep it going? I mean, they're top of the league at the minute. I think they get done 3-0 at home. Well, that was in the cup, wasn't it? The Hartlepool got done 3-0 at the weekend. I watched Newcastle bow out the cup against Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. As I mentioned, I watched Middlesbrough. But Darlington, they lost in the league on Saturday. Chorley won it. So they get gubbed. But anyway, I just watched the Chelsea game there, Chelsea Fulham. I thought Chelsea played well. And then they get back in the game. They were 1-0 down, get back in the game. And then the man sent off. Not good at pronunciations. But this lad was having a good game, and all of a sudden he just reckless challenge. I'm not a referee. I never really look at referees, but it was the right decision. Hi, Bernie. Good evening for Jeffrey Wood. Hi, Jeffrey. I'm glad I've seen it because still trying to get to terms with this YouTube. But anyway, Chelsea lost 2-1. But that's no better than the North East. We're worried and concerned about the North East. So I just want to plug this. And I've written it down so I don't forget. So there's a lad I played with called Gary Parkinson. He was part of the 86 team, the team that went through the liquidation, the relegation, the bankruptcy. He was a massive part in going third, second, first in consecutive seasons. He suffers from what they call locked-in syndrome. And he's still in a bad way, has been for a long time now. And we obviously keep hoping and praying. If you're religious in any way, shape or form, try and say a prayer for him. And he still needs 24-hour care. So it's been on my mind for quite a while because I've not seen him through the pandemic, obvious reasons. And then after that, people get colds and whatever. And I've not seen him. So I've had in my mind for a while now that we'll do another function for him. So I'm going to do one. On the 24th of March. It's going to be at the you don't have to be a Borough fan, by the way. If you're a charitable guy, come along. If you're a businessman, come along, support us. But as I say, Parky, as we call him, Gary Pattinson, he was a fullback. If you don't know his background, he was a fullback. He's for Thornaby, originated for Thornaby. His childhood sweetheart Deborah, he married, get 3 lovely kids there. The kids and Deborah do a magnificent job along with the people after Parky, looking after his welfare. But as I say, I've been in touch with all the 86 lads. There's obviously pairs. Parky's going to come as well, despite his situation. His wife today says she would bring him, which is brilliant. I spoke to Mugger, who's going to be there. Parley, Cooper, Gary Hamilton is over at the minute. Hopefully he's going to come back over because he lives in America now, Hammy. The midfield, Brian Laws, Stuart Ripley, Lee Turnbull, Paul Proudlock, Archie Stevens. So I've been in touch with everybody, Paul Kerr, Paul Proudlock. So I've been in touch with them all the 86 lads, and they've been there in the past. I don't really need to, when I phone them or text them, I just say, look, having a night for Parky, tell them where it is, what time, what date, and they say, we'll be there. Obviously, if something comes up outrageous, then they won't be there, but I know that none of them would kid me. They're all genuine lads. They're all great supporters. And as I say, it's for a great cause. I mean, I'll tell the details next week, i.e. how much of the tickets. We're not going to be selling food. We want to come along, enjoy the night with 86 lads. Few will do a bit of talking. Parker was a great fullback for us. he's lucky to have a mate like you, if Jeffrey would. No, I'm not lucky to have a mate like me, Jeffrey. I'm lucky to have a mate like Parky. Parky, I always say about Gary Parkinson that if I had a daughter, if any of us had daughters, if you had a daughter and you wanted to marry one of the 86 team, it'd be Gary Parkinson all day long. Parky had a lot. What happened, Bernie? Are you talking Mohammed? Hi, Mohammed. If you're talking about Parky, Gary Parkinson, I think it was in 2010. Gary Parkinson, former teammate of mine, a guy that I absolutely adored and loved, and I still love him, had a bad do, and it's what they call locked-in syndrome. He can't talk. When I've met him over the years and went to see him, he communicated via his eyes. Yeah, he's just in a bad way, and he needs 24-hour care. But when you go to see him, he still laughs. I'll talk to him like I'm talking here. Come on, Parky, you might throw an odd swear word in there, or tell a joke, or talk about the dressing room banter. Pally's been down, Matt Proctor's been down ways, and he was at the last two. The last two was with the Beechwood and Easterside. Was 500 people there. You look, I know it's a North East show, and I'm sorry for overriding it, but this guy is in a bad way, and he's been like a long time, and we hope and pray he can get out of it and recover. But meanwhile, I need 24-hour care. So I'm just trying to plug that we're going to be doing a doing the 24th of March. It's going to be in the town hall. Everybody's welcome. You don't need to be a Middlesbrough fan, and it's to raise funds for Parky and his care. Looking at, I'm going to read a few of these and then I'll cut with these. So, because I always go through the show or whatever, Facebook or Twitter, and I never read these out. Bernie, why do you think experienced, this is for Joe Burrafan. Bernie, why do you think experienced managers and successful ones struggled at Middlesbrough, i.e. Warnock and Wilder? Me personally, why do I think they struggled at Middlesbrough? I think guys like Wilder and Warnock are so experienced and been successful as managers that when they came to Middlesbrough, the crown slipped because we employed a director of coaching, director of football, whatever, and Kieran Scott, lad that came from Norwich. Now I see both sides. The modern game, loads of clubs up and down the country and wherever have got directors of football, and they play a big part in who comes in, who goes, da da da. But the likes of Wilder and Warnock, their experience. I mean, Warnock's been in the game 40 years. Both have played, by the way, and both have managed. Both have been successful, especially at Sheffield United. Rich Tunney says Warnock didn't struggle like. Well, he struggled. He lost his job at the end. So he did struggle, Rich. And I think he started well, and then we did it in a nosedive. And then so what I'm trying to say is Warnock, Wilder are used to ruling the roost. In the modern game, directors of football come in and they play a massive part. So that means the managers, stroke coaches, don't necessarily bring the players in or let players go. I would find it hard. If I was in one of Wilder's shoes, I would find it hard that a 38-year-old lad from Norwich who's one claim to fame that Pookie's come in at Norwich and did exceptionally well, very good goal scorer. He is a talent spotter, he got him to Norwich. So that's brilliant. He kept us up, Bernie. Yeah, he did, Rich, I get that. But what I mean is, I thought Warnock was coming in to get his promotion, not to keep us up. Keep us up was great. And I was a Warnock fan. Well, I wasn't a Warnock fan with a sort of a brand of football, but I loved his interviews. He was, he was fantastic talker, loaded with charm and charisma. And but football-wise, he loved playing three at the back. Fairly negative, long ball, always blamed the referees, the linesmen, the authorities. I thought, why are you on live? Is Burrard not playing? Oh, sorry, Mohammed. Mohammed, I'm on because we're doing a North East thing. I do a North East. I used to do what they call the Three Legends. You may be a younger lad, can't remember. All over the North East. And I loved it. I loved the banter with myself, Mark McDonald and Eric Gates. And then the lineup changed. And, yeah. So that's what, yeah. Yeah, so you can imagine Wilder and Warnock ruling the roost, getting who they want. Scott has not signed a good player, Kieran says. Well, I've not seen one yet in Middlesbrough. Don't get me wrong, he's been here, a year and a half or whatever, but I've still to be convinced. So, well, the money, look, Carrick knows what he's getting into. But the difference with Carrick, Wilder and Warnock is Carrick's a novice. He's not a manager. He's coach at Middlesbrough. And that means he's come in knowing that this Kieran Scott plays a major part. And he's accepted that. But I tell you what, the longer it goes, and if he gets a couple of players he doesn't want and doesn't get the ones he does want, there'll be a clash. Inevitable. That's inevitable. But at the minute it's hunky-dory. Carrick wants a job. He's got a good job at Middlesbrough. He's got a great chairman, Steve Gibson, but he still has to work with this Kieran Scott. And I could see problems if things don't go to plan down the line. I mean, Kieran Scott, I've never met the guy. If he watches this or somebody's telling him, if he wants to pull me and say, Bernie, I've listened to you and tell me a bit about his role and job. And I mean, he's came to the forefront now. When he first came in, he was under the radar. But in recent times, he was at the last press conference, wasn't he? When Carrick was unveiled. I'm surprised at that. And he had a say. So I think him and Carrick on a par. And if Carrick down the line, whenever it is, it's inevitable as well. Managers or coaches lose their job. Then this guy should go as well. Because he's a major part of who we get. At the minute, we've brought one player in Cameron Archer. One player we've brought in the window. We're looking for a couple more. No money spent as yet. Bernie, do you think we need a new keeper? Steve Sanderson. Do we need a new keeper? We're talking about Middlesbrough. We've got Roberts there. I'm a fan of Roberts as much as Stefan. Stefan, all right. I'm not a massive fan. I've seen enough of Stefan. I think he came to us for Man City. I think he fancies about the ball at the back too much. He plays it central, which I don't like. Big Jack Charlton, God rest him, would kill him, would strangle him. I think Scott can be judged now that he's fully working in his role. That's right, Tony. Give the lad a chance, but he's been there a year and a half, so whatever he's been doing, maybe he's just been getting the foundations in, and now we're going to start rolling. But we'll find out. But he should be under as much pressure as Carrick, because he's a major part. But I know who will favour, and this is where what I think, and there might be directors of football at Newcastle and at Sunderland and wherever. The pressure. So what happens? He brings me Duffs in, and I have a go back at him. But he has to go every time I see a player that I like. I'll say, what about him? So he might go away and start looking and querying. Then he has to go to the chief executive and the chairman. And then if they say no, the deal's off. Then I have to go back and he's a common influence in between the coach or the manager, the chairman and the chief exec. But I know if it comes to the crunch, who he's going to let down? He ain't going to let the chairman and the chief exec down, because they can sack him. Carrick can't. Wilder couldn't. Warnock couldn't. I think that's the reality. So if there's 4 people involved and there comes a crunch, and there will be at times you have to cut it down the middle and say, I have to favour that or that. You ain't going to favour the coach or the manager. You're going to favour the other boys, because the other boys can chop you and get you sacked and sack you. Anyway, Newcastle, can you win this cup? Dear goodness. You beat Leicester. I watched it. Thought he's played well. So you play what? Southampton now. Surely you can beat Southampton, get to Wembley, and then you would think that Man United would beat Notts Forest. It's a 2-leg affair, isn't it? I think the first game's on the 24th, and then the second leg's 31st. I'm trying to not take a lot of notice because we're out the cups. And Middlesbrough fan, what do you think? Out the cup early doors. We were out the League Cup early doors, beat at the FA Cup in the 3rd round. You know, it's another season trophyless. Is it purely focused now, be tunnel visioned and trying to get promotion? But does it have any bearing? I don't think it does. I think Saturday, no matter what happens against Millwall at the Riverside, either way, it's no bearing on the 5-1 drubbing against Brighton. I think it's a wake-up call, a reality check to let the players at Middlesbrough know you've had the slaps in the back. You know, Peter's been saying how good we've been since Carrick came in, and rightly so. All the egos have been getting stroked. That was a big wake-up call. That lets us know the gulf between the Premiership and the Championship. And don't forget, I've sampled it at Middlesbrough. I played in the top flight of First Division. I played in the Premier League. Tony Peacock says, how do other clubs manage the recruitment process? Is it usually the manager who goes for who he wants? Tony, the game's changed. Excuse me. Brian Clough, the late great Brian Clough. I'm covering North East football, so Clough played for Middlesbrough and went to Sunderland where he got a bad injury and finished his career. That's why I went management. I think they all do it now. Brian Clough used to sign players at Derby and then go and tell the chairman once he did the deal. He says, "Oh, pay for him, I've just paid 500 grand. The chairman would nearly faint. Guys like him and Redknapp, Big Sam Allardyce and Fergie, they controlled everything. They ruled the roost. It doesn't happen like that now. And some of the fans still don't get it. If Warnock was getting criticised, well, why is he signed him? What about that one? Who brought Conlon? Who brought Piero in? Come on. It wasn't Warnock. I know that for definite. It wasn't him. But he get the blame for bringing them in. And he's over in Argentina now. It cost us £5 million. What a waste of money. I think we wouldn't have conceded 5 versus Liverpool or Man City. Brighton are on fire and got 4 at Everton. Yeah, they did. They won 4. Was it 4-1, Leslie? But don't forget, they made 5 changes, Brighton. 5 changes. We kept a full team. And I would have did the exact same as Carrick. I'd have kept the same Middlesbrough team. Carrick's done everything I would have did. I've been here 37 years, whatever it is. When he came in, Carrick either went 4 at the back, he did that. I'd keep the same team barring injuries, he's done that. Cup games, play my strongest team, he's did that as well. I'm not going. And by the way, there's no embarrassment in getting done off a Premiership outfit with Brighton. They were a top side. I think they're rated in the Premier, but by goodness, don't forget World Cup winner. Scored 2. McAllister. So, and they had the likes of the lad for Arsenal coming off the bench. They had a healthy bench. What about Man City getting beat? Anyway, Newcastle. When you get beat in the cup the other week there by Sheffield, I thought, oh, you don't need a trophy cabinet. And then we beaten Leicester last night. I thought, do you know what? Maybe you do need a trophy cabinet. I'm not first big game at the weekend for Rocco. Let me see. I'm going to read these other ones while we're waiting and keep it coming. Bernie, last week, this is for Franco. No, sorry. I'll go, rather than read Butterfan, I'll read Fredo. Fredo. That used to be a chocolate bar, didn't it? Magpie. The buzz is back at St James's since the fat lad departed. Fat lad? What, Malcolm McDonald? My old mate? Oh, you mean Mike Ashley? Okay. Well, I have to say, through my television and what I'm seeing, the crowd look like the crowd of old. Newcastle's always had 50-odd thousand. I've always accused you in the North East radio show, the 3 legends with Malcolm and Gatesy. I used to always say that yous lot in Newcastle would turn up to watch the grass growing. Yous are fanatical. You moan and groan, but you still turn up in your droves. That's to your credit. But yeah, the buzz does feel back. I had to turn the volume down last night. You were getting a bit noisy. And the scent of the trophy. When was the last time you won a trophy? Was it Bob Winker? Captain Bob? First Cup? Was that 69? Far cry, the difference between us and Brighton. They get promoted the year after us. And look how far they've come. That's a fair point. We'll come to that, Paul. Compared to us, we went straight back down and they're on fire. Paul, I heard that on Saturday after the Borough game. And you're right in saying that. Brighton were on a par with us, bit behind us. Look at them now. Loaded with talent, loaded with ability, pass the ball, keep possession, score goals, good in the eye, entertainment. Yeah, I have to, look, as I say, I watched the game Saturday and I thought, do you know what? How many of your lads, looking at that one game, which is very unfair, I always judge with 12, 14 games. I thought, looking at that game, none of them would be able to play in the Premier. But I played in games like that, so I wasn't hassling the lads. I've been in games like that. I played against Liverpool. We get beat. Liverpool, that was the year they went and played the Arsenal last game of that season, 88-89 season. They get beat the last game. So they were a top team then. John Barnes, Ray Houghton, John Aldridge. They had a very good team. That's why they were challenging for the title. And they beat us 4-0. And then I remember going to Highbury playing Arsenal. David Rocastle, God rest him. I remember him beating about 5 defenders. Pally Mugger, my old mates, went by them as if they weren't there, stuck it in the pokey. And they beat us 3-0. So I've been the end of hiding. Sometimes you need to hold your hands up and say, well, we're beaten by the better team. But as some Borough fans have said, how is it that a few years ago we were on a par, now they're in a different sphere. Bernie, last week I was at the Brighton game and had the pleasure of being in the Legends Lounge. Yeah, thank you. I host the Legends Lounge. Your guest was boxer Michael Webster. Yeah, if you don't know Michael Webster, check him out on the Wikipedia or whatever. He's a local boxer here for Grangetown. Is it Grangetown? For this neck of the woods, Middlesbrough. He's a professional boxer. I think it's 7 fights, 7 wins, about 4 knockouts. And he should be on Sky fairly soon. What was the other one? There was a couple of familiar faces alongside you. Do you know what annoyed me all weekend? Any idea who it was? Weekend, who did I talk to? Oh, the first guy to come in and see was Gary Hamilton. Hammy, he's over for America. Hammy was over. So Gary Hamilton played in the 86 team I played in. Scottish guy. Came here, finished at a tender age, about 24, 25 due to injury. He was so tough, he played through the pain barrier and ended up with a hole within his knee. Not on the outside, within, and his career was cut short. That's how tough they were back then. The modern player ladders his tights and he's out for 3 weeks. Borough need to win on Saturday, Burnley against Millwall, and I accept it will be a hard game. It will be a hard game, Andrew. Kenny for Sunderland says, your former mate Mugger isn't doing a bad job at Sunderland, Bernie. Look, Mugger's the ultra-professional, Kenny. I love Mugger. Man of honesty, integrity, principles, morals. He's got the lot. And he's passionate about the game. Sometimes he's intense, but he just loves the game of football. And he's local. And yeah, he wants to do the best for Sunderland. And I'm sure that do you think, Sunderland fans, do you think you'll finish in the top 6? Personally, I hope you do. I hope we're top 6 Middlesbrough. I hope you're top 6. Do we want the Magpies to be in Champions League? Imagine the Magpies. What hype we got in Saturday, Burnley against Brighton? Yeah, Colin, I've mentioned that. What's this? Franny says, I heard Warnock on a podcast recently, but I didn't treat him well. Well, I've heard that as well, and oh, didn't I just get this out of the way? I heard that as well. Warnock, well, I've heard, I was actually with somebody the other day, was talking about the podcast that Warnock was on. Yeah, I think Warnock, some of the things he says were they far-fetched? Yeah, well, when Warnock left, by all accounts, he was told via a phone call. I think that's classless. I don't think that's good. Especially a 70-odd-year-old man who's been in the game 40 years. I know what he's like, but did somebody make a phone call and say you're sacked to stop the confrontation? Because I'm sure he's a fiery character, and rightly so. I don't think he'd want to punch anybody. But anyway, that was the feud with a phone call. And then, seemingly the following day, went to Rock. Don't forget, I'm talking about my own club here. Went to the training ground and he went to clear his desk, and the security guy says, you're not allowed in, there's a press conference, or we're setting up something for a press conference. I think it's a bit classless, you know what I mean? Go on, get your gear, all the best, see you later. But anyway, so that was Warnock. As I say, 40 odd years in the game. What was it, 600, 700, 800 games, something ridiculous. But Warnock's got the chart and the charm. He's good for radio, he's good in radio. Does he want to get back in the game? Might do. It won't be for the money, he's loaded. But he's still passionate. You hear him talking, he's still passionate. Dave, Newcastle fans, Newcastle versus Southampton, Forest versus Man United, League Cup semi-finals. Newcastle, he won it. Well, Dave, I don't see any real reason now why Newcastle can't go all the way. Southampton, home and away. You're away first and then at home. And then you've got Man United or Forest. You couldn't pick them out the hat, could you, like that? John, Borough fan said, do you think Borough will spend any big money this month? Me personally, I'll be honest, I don't think we will. I think it'll be loan players. I don't think we'll spend anything. We've got one player in, as I say. We've got the lad Archer in from Villa. Was out at Derby, was it 7 and 20 or whatever. I'll be honest, didn't know a great deal about the lad. I know we can all look at things now in the social network. We can find out anything and everything. But when he came off the bench, I was a bit surprised at his height. He's only small, very small. No, Akpom's in brilliant. Scored again Saturday, 14th goal of the season. Well done, Chuba. 13 league goals, 1 in the cup. That'll be the only one in the cup because we're out. But when he came off the bench, Archer, I was a wee bit disappointed he was small. Hey, Janino was small. Jimmy Johnson, boyhood hero when he was a kid in Glasgow, a long way. He was small. Willie Henderson Ranger, but they were all small. But up front, I just think we need something different. Chuba's all right in the air, but I don't think he's aggressive. I certainly wasn't aggressive, but the guys I played alongside were aggressive. And I'd have liked to have seen somebody a bit of aggression. This guy, probably a wee bit like Barrigan. Barrigan came for the Arsenal, highly rated, under 21, scored goals for England, comes here, scored a couple, but didn't really set the header alight. Wee bit lightweight, wasn't strong enough, wasn't vicious, aggressive. We need a right winger. Jones has lost all the confidence for Tony. Well, Jones, a lot of people criticising Jones. Jones came into the team, breath of fresh air. Was under Warnock, wasn't it? Played full back. He's playing as a winger at the minute, or when he's in. And he was direct, fearless, fast, tricky, scored a goal, made a goal. And he's sort of I don't know if it's been coached out of him, but he's content in keeping the ball now. And that's probably why he's out of the team. Terry from Newcastle says, Sunderland versus Borough a week on Saturday. So Newcastle fan getting involved in the derby with Sunderland and Middlesbrough. It's up there, by the way. Week on Saturday, Stadium of Light, and 12 o'clock kickoff. His derby game's lost a bit of sparkle, Bernie, for Terry, Newcastle fan. So he's asking about his son. I thought he was going to have a go. Terry, I'll be honest, it lost its sparkle years ago. Years and years ago. When I first came to Middlesbrough, 85, 86 season, I was actually seeing a picture tonight. I was wearing a Hansa, which is a waist strip, blue Hansa. Against Sunderland, there was guys like Burley playing, and Sean Elliott, the centre-back, and Ruben Agbula. Remember him? I'm only remembering them because some of them were in the picture I've seen tonight. And they were all British lads. My team were full of local lads, guys from Redcar and Norton and Thornaby, Middlesbrough. So they knew the importance. I'm from Glasgow. I knew the importance of derby games. But then I always remember Emerson. Remember Emerson, the Brazilian, came with his shaggy hair, looked like a 80s pop star. You could see him in a group. He was a great guy. He was a character. And I remember him saying after he scored a wonder goal at Stadium of Light, he hit it with outside his foot, 20 yards, top right-hand corner. And he was asked after the game, so what about scoring a derby game? He went, it's just another game. Tell the fans that. So for me, derbies have lost a bit of the shine and appeal because there's so many players from overseas. There's so many players that don't really get it. I get it. I love nothing better than scoring against Newcastle and Sunderland. I loved it because I'm from Glasgow. I'm used to derbies, watching derbies, Celtic Rangers. The atmosphere, the hatred, the bigotry, everything rolled into one. It's lethal. Down here, thank God there's no the bigotry side, but it's intense. It really is. And keep them coming. Do you think Borough, this is for Leo, a Sunderland fan, I thought it was Leo Pekovic, the ex-Borough temporary manager and coach. Leo says, do you think Sunderland and Borough can get promotion this season? I do. Do I think they'll be top two? Either of them, no. Do I think can finish in the top six? Definitely. I think Mugger's going to try and get a host of loan players in. My only fear for Middlesbrough, my team, is if Chuba was to get injured or Giles was to get injured, that's our top scorer or our biggest source of providing service. If any of them get injured, I think we would hit a wall to a degree because they are the two most influential players for Middlesbrough. You scored versus Newcastle, Sunderland, banned even in the tall trees. Oh, come on, Leslie. Yeah, my Newcastle fan, do you remember that? I like to remember Newcastle fan. Come on, North East Newcastle fan. Don't be shy. I remember Newcastle played them 1991? Last game of the season. The Bald Eagle, Jim Smith was manager. And Newcastle just had to win the last game at Ayresome Park and the last day of the season to go up. They'd hired a helicopter. They were confident. Matt McGee and Mickey Quinn, who's on TalkSport now and again. He was into the horse racing, had horses, whatever. I remember sitting with my breakfast in my house in Linthorpe, reading the paper that day, eating, back then I was eating bacon, I'm vegan now, but I was eating bacon and eggs and proper professional, you know what I mean? And then I headed to the game. But I remember opening the paper and see that's when I bought papers. Don't buy papers either. Load of rubbish. And I read it and I seen the pictures of McGee and Mickey Quinn. Matt McGee played for Celtic, if you don't know who he is, with soft hats on and guns, rifle type guns, saying I'm going to blow Middlesbrough away. And I was getting indigestion. I'm thinking, can't wait to get to Ayerson Park and sort these out. And we had to want to stay up. Anyway, we go there, scorching days, you can imagine. It's the end of the season, it's May. They fancy themselves big time because they're in the rich vein of form. They have to want to go up to the top flight. We have to want to stay up. And we blew Newcastle away 4-1. Yes, Slaven get 2 and Ian Baird get 2. So Newcastle fans, the other thing was, Newcastle fans, were you at that game? And were you crying? And were you one of the Newcastle fans that was watching it on the big screen at St James's? I believe there was 14,000 people there at St James's watching it on the big screen. They'd hired the helicopter. They were so confident and arrogant that they were going to beat us, just come and wipe the floor with us, and then head back, celebrating with all the fans that was watching it on the screen. It didn't happen, didn't materialise. The best laugh about that is, we're talking about the one leg end at the Three Legends show. Eric Gates played against Newcastle semi-finals when you get to the playoffs. Anyway, they played at St James's and Gates scored the winner. And seemingly somebody happened with a bottle of piss. Tells the story when he's doing his talks. Imagine that. Scoring the win against Newcastle at St James's to make sure they're not going up. Bottle of piss headed direct. Anyway, League Cup on the horizon. Oh, this is Paula, Newcastle fan. Paula, League Cup on the horizon and Championship up for grabs. Now that would be a great season. I mentioned that earlier. Hey, look, if Newcastle get in the top 4 Champions League spot and won the cup, dear God, I'll need to move out of here. Teesside. Remember that game well, Bernie Joseph Slim. What days, Paul Collins? Oh, they were good days, weren't they? Neil Whitley says, Bernie, hope you're well, buddy. On the subject of derbies, I saw India versus Pakistan cricket. Can't get involved in cricket, Neil. Know nothing about it. I know, but I've never felt an atmosphere like it, even more intense than an old film. Nevertheless, it was a great experience. Well, about your superior knowledge of cricket, so you watched, this is for Neil Whitley, India versus Pakistan in the cricket, and he never felt an atmosphere like it. Wow. I've got a few mates, English mates, and an Indian lad, my mate, who love the cricket. I'll ask you about that one. India-Pakistan, electric atmosphere. Where are we here? Sunderland v Borough week on Saturday has debut. Oh, I've read that. Do you think Sunderland Borough get promotion? I've read that. Is this the same one? Oh yeah. Neil, a Borough fan, says, as a Borough fan, I'm disappointed. We were knocked out of both competitions early on. How do you feel about that? Listen, I've said this all along. I'm always disappointed getting knocked out cup competitions early. You know, a lot of teams abuse it. Look at Man City last night. I know they've got bigger fish to fry. I totally get it. But Pep's always treated it really seriously. To be honest, in the league, I think Southampton have been huffing and puffing and struggling. Man City just ooze class on the bench, off the bench, on the park, in the stands. They've just got loaded with top players because they've got loads of money. But last night they were found wanting. And I think they were disappointed they're out of that competition. But that's what you get. I mean, we put our best team out Saturday and we get beat. That's okay. At least, if we would have put 5 kids out on Saturday, Middlesbrough, I reckon we'd have beat 8 or 9. That's how good they were. And I think it's a good thing that Carrick done that, because if Carrick's aspirations and ambitions are going into top flight, he's wanting to see who he thinks could make the transition. And looking at that, there'll be a few wake-up calls. I'll keep reading these. Newcastle Sunderland, it's not just Borough fans, anybody can come on. Don't be shy, Newcastle Sunderland fans. Talk about the derby game. Tell us about your derby. Newcastle Sunderland. What's going to be the score? Harry the Hartlepool fan says, Hartlepool are absolute crap, Bernie. Well, obviously you're second bottom in the league. I mentioned earlier you beat 3-0 against Stoke in the Cup. Disappointing. I mean, Stoke's a division or 2 above you. But you're forever chopping and changing. I mean, I know Raj Singh through my pals. I've met him more than a few. I personally like him. I think he's a straight talker. I think he's ruthless. I think he's proved that. But I'm not a fan of chopping and changing all the time. I don't get involved in that because that's not my business, and I'm not a Hartlepool lad. I'm Borough. But yeah, I just think too much chopping and changing at Hartlepool, and unless you get a settled team and a settled outfit behind the scenes, I can't see anything improving. Do you think one or two will depart in the window from Middlesbrough, Bernity for Joe? I think McNair, Jones, I think they're... If anybody comes in, I think we'd be more than willing to sell them. But I don't want to see players depart from Middlesbrough if we don't spend the money. There's no good at going in the coffers or in the bank. And I'm a fan. I want to see the money spent. And if it's just tucked away, it's no good to me. I'd rather keep the players. Tony the Pony, Newcastle fan. Tony the Pony. It's good, isn't it? There's a record, Morrissey. Tony the Pony. I take it you have watched us on the telly, i.e. Sky or BT. Have you been impressed, Bernie boy, with the Magpies? Look, I think you've been excellent. I think Eddie Howe's done a great job. He's a good talker, good in front of the cameras. He's obviously blessed that overseas people come in and bought your club and spent fortunes. Don't forget, he spent a few quid since he came in. But yeah, Newcastle are looking slick. You know, you look at big Linton, Joe Linton. What a turnaround. I mean, when he first came in, I think people were laughing at his price tag and laughing at him. And now they're right behind him, they're cheering him, and he scored a goal the other night, and he's looking the business. So yeah. Jeff the Borough fan said, I listened to your present podcast and past ones recently. Really enjoyed them. Clough Big Jack Charlton, my favourites. Well, thank you for listening. And yeah, if you, I've got podcasts out every Monday for anybody, not just for Middlesbrough. Over the North East, I did Bob McCart, I did Peter Beardsley, I did Chris Rea, the singer, I did Chubby Brown. It's not just footballers. I've did Cloughie, Jack, as the lad said, Janino, Ravanelli. I've did them all, and I've tried to just load them up over the years. So yeah, and it's free. Darren Dallow fan says, I don't know if you've mentioned the carry on with the female officials against Scarborough recently. What was your thoughts, Bernie? I think I did mention it last week, didn't I? So if you don't know, so Darren the Darlow fan, so he's a Darlington fan, probably at the game. They played Scarborough the other week, was it week Saturday, and there was some misogynistic abuse directed at the female officiator, the lineswoman, we'll call her the lino, and the game was abandoned for 40 minutes. What do I think? Me personally, with my brain, nobody tell me what to say, what to do. I think it's ludicrous that the game gets stopped for 40 minutes because of abuse. I think it's wrong. But if you're going to abandon the game for 40 minutes, you have to abandon Man United, Arsenal. I'm talking games I've heard it, not through my telly. I was at Man United, I mentioned this the other day in my podcast. I was at the Man United Arsenal game with Pally, Rob, or whatever, this season, before Ronaldo left, and Ronaldo was out there, and if there was 5 to 10,000, whatever it was, allocation, Arsenal fans, they were singing, Cristiano Ronaldo, you're a rapist, in their groves. It's okay cancelling a game or abandoning a game for 40 minutes when there's 3,000. Try doing it with 60-odd thousand at Old Trafford. It wouldn't happen. And I don't think it should happen. Complaints, without a doubt. But anyway, if Ronaldo went over and said, they're shouting rapists, would the game have been abandoned? No, rubbish. James McLean, mentioned it again in the podcast earlier. I'm repeating myself, but somebody's asked a question. James McLean didn't wear the poppy. I wear the poppy. No problem with the poppy. I respect everybody that's passed away, whether I liked him, didn't like him, I agree, I don't agree. Out of respect, I would respect the dead. So no ifs and buts. But if it was James McLean, I'd possibly not want to wear the poppy. Because I'm for a part of Ireland where Sunday Bloody Sunday happened, and I have to return to Ireland, and I might get done in. So people should not be forced. And then with Ched Evans. Ched Evans was classed as a rapist. A year later, he got away with it. The Borough fans, my fans, no, my fans, the fans of the team that I support were singing Ched Evans is a rapist. Celtic Rangers, the Celtic fans abused the minute silence. That's offensive. Then the Rangers fans saying no Pope of Rome. That's offensive. So where do you stop? What do you do? You know, mental resilience is how you reach the top. Mental resilience. No fan, no opponent, no teammate stops you from progressing. The manager might, because he might not pick you. But if you're picked, whether you're on the sidelines, in the middle as a ref, a footballer, nobody stops you. You need to be bulletproof. I know it's not right, but this is society we live in. We can't stop the game for 40 minutes if somebody shouts abuse. Because if you can't handle it, don't do it. It'll happen again Saturday. There'll be a bit of abuse. Millwall, West Ham. Dear God, try and stop that for 40 minutes. It'll be like World War III. Those fans are lunatics. The history tells you. As I say, I'm not into anybody getting abuse. But when's the players going to get backed? There seems to be an agenda that we only support certain people. And for me, that's what's inflaming the situation in Britain, in my opinion, and in the country. You either have to support everybody and everything, or don't support anybody or anything. But the minute we just tick boxes, we'll protect that, and we'll keep that, and we'll do that, garbage. I'm not going as I say, I'm only reading because I'm only going over all ground because somebody mentioned it. Pep played a few clowns and went 2-0 down, brought the big guns on a little too late. Well, Wesley, it's a gamble and it backfired. Gareth says, I think the FA Cup run killed our season last year as outlined squad wasn't big enough to rotate for the Cup. You're talking about the Borough, Gareth. I say, the Cup's no bearing on the league whatsoever. I don't buy into that. I mean, the biggest, I mentioned the other night, so Palace is my mate. I've had him in the Legends Lounge over the year, when it's FA Cup time over the years. And I would say to him, come on, what do you make of the, I'm going to try and put this, what do you make of the FA Cup and chopping and changing? And he went, oh, I'm all for chopping and changing. And he's won it 2 or 3 times. And I said, well, many times will you drop? Because I'd checked it out. He played every game. And now he's agreeing that they should chop and change. I don't buy into it. If I'm Chuba Akpom and I bang 13 league goals in, I want to play on Saturday against Brighton. I want to score another goal. And Chuba achieved that. And well done to him for that. If you're playing and you're in form, why do you want to be dropped? Sorry, the modern terminology, rested. Another date was dropped, out and out dropped, no good enough, you're out of team. Newcastle did the same in the FA Cup at Sheffield Wednesday, and last also, football fans are crazy. Did you see that Newcastle fan punch a horse a few years ago? I did. As an animal lover, I'd love to punch his head off. You know what I mean? Me doing the boxing training, I'd love to go up and box his nut off. Yeah, I did see that. I mean, that's one idiot. I don't believe. I like Newcastle people. I think they're a bit like Glaswegians, a bit about them and a bit of personality and like a bit of fun and big supporters of football and passionate. But yeah, that idiot that punched the horse. He wasn't Newcastle, he wasn't Sunderland, was he? Where are we here? Oh, I got a few of these. I always promise I read them and I never do. Geordie, so I take it he's Newcastle. Bernie, how did you find out your successful show, The Three Legends, was being pulled? I loved it back then. Good question, Geordie boy. Well, we've been going for a good 10 years. We did over 500 shows. Anybody that's younger out there, we used to do a Legend show. It was broadcast for 60 every night across the North East. And there was Malcolm McDonald represented in England, represented Newcastle United Football Club. Eric Gates was Sunderland and I was a Borough. And the show worked and the show was so successful, radio figures would tell you, it was the best in the country, not just North East, right over the country at that time of night. Unbelievably good. Tours every night for 10 years, 500 shows. Anyway, we go to, me and Mickey Hospital went to Australia. My missus went over there, met a couple of friends, stayed for 3 weeks, returned, went to the Metro Centre, had a coffee, me and Mickey, get an early, I'd lost my phone in Australia. Typical of me, smashed my iPad, but that's for another day, that's another story. Anyway, Mickey, while we're in the Metro having a coffee, Mickey gets a text for one of the guys. Oh, hi Mickey, can you and Bernie come in early? I take it you're back safely. Can you come in early? So Mickey says, what do you think that's about? I said, well, probably we've been away for 3 weeks. We need to be brought up to speed with what's going on and, you know, what's happening in the area with football. When we get there, you sort of sense the guy that was usually nicest and charming was just sort of abrasive, walking by, all right, good holiday. And anyway, I had a feeling something was wrong. And this is how loyalty doesn't pay. Don't kid yourself, loyalty doesn't pay. You're just a number. We're successful, we're doing the business, we're loyal, we're there every night. But anyway, dragging it back, this guy, John, can't remember his name, I'd certainly mention him because I thought he was a tosser, took us through the back, says, right lads, as from tonight, you're not going on air. So this is how they treat the biggest show in the North East and Britain at the time, because we know with the figures, and anybody that knows about radio, we could go and check them and find out that I'm not porcupine. No need to lie. And he just says, and by the way, they had to sack us and get rid of us because they wanted to clear the decks for Hat FM, who are in now, they're still in, who weren't doing football. They were going to play Rihanna every night. They were going to play Adele every night and all that nonsense. So they were getting rid of the football and they had to be seen to walk in, the deck's clear, and that was their job to get rid of us. So that was it. They says 3 months silence clause, and this is what football clubs do as well as maybe a wee bit longer than 3 months for footballers on massive amounts of money. We were told to sign a form. We won't say anything for 3 months because we're going to get paid for 3 months. And I says, and I just says, listen, you can shove that thought right up your ass. I won't be signing it. And I walked out there and then. And I never signed it. And I ended up going to Star FM in Darlington. Meanwhile, Malcolm, Mark McDonald and Mickey Hoswell, who'd come in for Gatesy a bit before that, they too stayed out in gardening leave, got their money. I lost my money, but I was on air for Star FM for 3 months. So that's how it works. The fan doesn't know, the public, the footballing fans don't know. There's loads of politics, football and radios, and, you know, you look at the BBC here. People say, oh, well, they don't say that and they're not hard hitting because they're on bed with each other. Newcastle will be the same. The Newcastle, they try to emulate what we done. They'll never do it. I don't even know who's on it up there, but they started it. But instead of having 3, they've got 2. One representing Sunderland. I don't even know if it's still gone. One representing Sunderland, one Newcastle. Well, what about Middlesbrough? Middlesbrough no count. As I say, the politics in football and the game and radios and that, it stinks. Even more so now. Akpom is, Jake Thornaby says, Akpom is coming for your league goal record, Bernie. The 89-9 season. And how many did you actually get? Well, at the minute, Akpom's get 13 league goals. He's got 20 games to get 21. So, yeah. He's got a few to get. Can he do it? Of course he can. Well, he get that season I finished with 32. Is he going to get 32? Very, very unlikely. But hey, I've not actually crying away. Akpom, if he gets him, brilliant. If he doesn't, it's okay. I just want to score goals to get us out of this division and get to where we want to be. We've been in this league too long. I think it's 13 years in the championship. Bernie, I noticed you were on the Toon podcast last week with Supermac. Yeah, I was. It was Steve Wraith. Big Newcastle fan, Steve. Steve was on, John Gibson was on. John worked for the Chronicle for many, many years. I think he was one of the first guys to chat to him up when he signed from the London team, Fulham, 10 minutes. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was funny. Yeah, good bit of crack. I think they do that every week as well. But that's purely for Geordies. I'm trying to get into the North East. That cough, man. Everybody's got a cough, isn't they? What's this? Terry Ferry. I don't think that means. This is Terry. Great to see Cammy getting a knighthood, Bernie. He's obviously referring to Chris Kamara. Chris Kamara, I'm a big fan of Chris's. I know Chris personally. I've been to Hong Kong, Singapore, been playing 5-a-sides. He joined us in the Premier League on loan. He came then. Massive fan. Really sad about his voice carry on at the minute. Hopefully he can get over that. But he's fighting away and he's still in good form and getting a knighthood. Fantastic. Well done, Chris. Top man. Excuse me. Didn't you score 32, Bernie, in the tall trees? No, I scored more than that. You're joking, aren't you, Liz? I scored more than that. Bernie, do you ever hear from that famous Hartlepool fan, Bert, who used to phone the Three Legends? Actually, John, the Hartlepool fan. I do. No, I don't. I did a few years ago before the pandemic kicked in, I met him in the town, Middlesbrough Town Centre, when he was doing the books. And he came in and he had a chat. Yeah, if you don't know Bert, he was a very, very funny man. Massive Hartlepool fan, season ticket holder. Adored Hartlepool, but loved his football and he was a character. But a boy says, will Steve Gibson, the Middlesbrough chairman, splash the cash this month? I don't think so. I don't know. It's only my gut. I just think we've got one inner striker on loan, and I think it'll be another couple of loans. I don't see spending and flashing the cash now. But surely when Carrick's agreed, because obviously at the start he'd walked away and then he came back for more talks, surely there must be something saying he's going to get a couple of players in January of quality. So we'll have to wait and see. Sunderland, Nelly Sunderland fan says, when was the last time you seen your old radio muckers Gatesy, Tiddler and Malcolm? Well, Malcolm, I was talking to you during the week on that podcast we were talking about. Eric Gates, I never seen Eric Gates. I never fell out with him, but obviously he was sacked, which was unbelievable at the time, and oh dear God, that really affected me. And then we lost sort of I used to go and see him every Wednesday. He wasn't working with us, but story about Gatesy. Gatesy a character. If you don't know Gatesy's a funny man. Always moaning, grown, but what a funny man. This night we're doing the show, and he's doing a talk up in Sunderland. So there's about 10 minutes of the show to go, the Legend Show, 6 to 8, 10 to 8. So he says, can you make sure there's we never vetted the callers, but make sure there's a Newcastle Borough fan to finish with, because I want to get away, get a good start and go to the club and do his bit. So he goes out, he says, I'm just going to get a quick change, so he gets his gear on and that. Still doing not any smarter. Anyway, we're on air and we're talking, and there was a box, and I'm trying to, I can't talk because we're live in air, and I'm going, and he just lays the box down. So we carry on talking, me and Malcolm, we're listening to the call, and we're replying. All of a sudden, the fucking box starts moving. Honest to God, moving. It's a cockerel. He planted it and left, and it was just like dormant. It was just lying there, just sitting near the box. And as I was talking, I just seen it moving. I thought somebody drugged my tea or something. Started moving the box, and it was a cockerel. I ended up keeping the cockerel. Anyway, where are we? North East fan Rolf, the biggest crime about losing the Legend Show was it has never been replaced in the region. But there's no way it would last 2 minutes in the modern day. Seriously. The days of PC and the Woke Brigade and the Snowflakes, and yet when I say that, people go, what are you on about? Well, you're not living in the real world if you don't know what I'm on about. You're probably one of them, that's why you don't know about them. You probably are one without knowing you're one. As I keep saying, people just tell lies just to keep their jobs. Keep low. Don't have an opinion, because if you've got an opinion and it's the wrong one, or somebody disagrees with you, then you're sacked. There's a question for you, Bernie. What do you think on the future when Steve Gibson calls time in his role? This is for Paul Gamble, chairman at his role as chairman at the club. Don't want it to happen anytime soon, but there's rumours he's going to hand it to his daughter, like Dave Whelan did at Wigan to his grandson, or would it got for sale? Paul, I don't know the answer. I can only surmise. I know his daughter, Katie. I was in a play recently with Katie. I got on with Katie. I got on with Steve Gibson. I'm not a sycophantic fool. I don't know everything that's going on at Middlesbrough, and sometimes I get it wrong, sometimes I get in trouble, but that's me. But I'm sure Steve and his daughter that knows that I'll never stab anybody in the back, certainly them. So I'm fans of both of them. I as I say, I don't know, I'm only surmising and guessing my gut. I think that Steve Gibson would rather pass it to his daughter than pass it to some foreigner, or, I don't mean that nastily, but somebody from abroad. I think he would try and keep it in the family. That's what I think. I don't know. It's a fair question. As you say, David Whelan did it at Wigan. And I think in the modern society, handing it to a woman, there'll be loads of plaudits for everybody concerned. So I don't think that's out the realms of, I think that's a fair point. Where are we now? How has Carrick got the same players as Wilder, but they're performing? Frank the Borough. Frank, I'm fed up answering this one. In my opinion, simplistic things. Went 4 at the back, scrapped to 3. That Wilder, Warner, Pulis, Karanka did it. It was set in stone. It was boring. It was repetitive. It wasn't productive. It wasn't good in the eye. So for me, this guy's come in and went, you know what? Let's go 4. Let's play attacking. Let's try and entertain. Let's score a few goals. Akpom's flourishing like a rose in the summer. And he's doing very well. Giles is crossing is as good as Beckham's in his heyday at Man United. If you think I'm joking, watch Giles. Bob says for Darlington, I remember you came to Darlington. You never enjoyed it, did you? Fucking Bob, I'll tell you what, Bob. I despised Darlington. Oh, I hated it. I was on the way down because I was 34, whatever. A lot of young lads who were all good kids, good personalities and that. They were trying to make it. Some of them obviously weren't good enough. Some of them were struggling. I struggled with them. And then ended up getting a back injury and I had to call it a day. I was nearly 35 anyway. But my only good thing at Darlington was, the only thing I achieved was keeping Darlington up last game of the season. I scored late on, can't remember, it was against last game of the season. I had to win to stay up and I scored that. Apart from that, no, a lot of good memories. Peter Coates did the same thing at Stoke with Bet365 and he's a chairman at Stoke. So that's for Leslie. Gareth says, Ian and Bernie, Joseph Slaven, what are you doing up? Gareth, come on Gareth, what am I doing up? I'm doing this North East show. Every Thursday I'm going to be doing it. Try to get the Geordies and the Michaels involved like the old days, the 3 legends. And you never know. Some big businessmen might think, get Gatesy back and Malcolm and do the legends. And then it'd be a show that would be different from the rest. We'd be hard-hitting, with the egos, not scared to have their opinions. What a show that would be. Imagine those 2 sitting next to me. Well, I wouldn't let them in this house. They might be sitting in their own house. I wouldn't let a Geordie in through my door. I'm only joking. Where are we? I've read that. Let's see. Bernie, my eyes are bad these days. Which players are on the montage behind you? That's for JJ, a Newcastle fan. Well, just looking at my screen from behind me because I don't want to twist my neck. There's Bob Minker. Captain, they're all signed, by the way. Captain Bob Minker. I know Bob. I'm a big fan of Bob. He's a great player. Scored a hat-trick in the UEFA Cup final. Was it final, home and away, wasn't it? Stan Anderson with a red and white strip. Captained all 3 North East teams. That's why he's there. That was myself there. Malcolm McDonald in the middle. The Newcastle team that won the first cup. That's all signed on this side. There. That's it. This one here is Lee. Robert. Where are we? Other side. Robert Lee. Newcastle within the Champions League. Can you believe that? That's Figo alongside him. This one down here is there is the 86 team. No, that's the team, the Middlesbrough team I played in that got promotion against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We relegated Chelsea. Awesome. I'll be here next week, Bernie. Cheers. Thanks for that. I'll read a couple of these out and then that'll do us because it's 58. I'm 2 minutes. Bernie, my eyes. No, so I've read that. Where are we? Sorry. Tommy, why don't you do the 3 Legends podcast? I could arrange it. I'm still in with the lads, but sponsorship money would be needed. I thought he says he gets sponsorship. No, listen, Malcolm doesn't need it. Mickey or Gatesy doesn't need it. I don't really need it. I do it because I love it and enjoy it. Nobody does. If you do everything for nothing, you never get a job. The lads wouldn't do it for no money. You're joking. I mean, I get sponsorship. No, for this, I've only started this. But I get sponsorship for my Facebook lives, and I'm grateful for that. And my YouTube and podcasts. So, yeah. Right, I'll read last ones out. Let's see. Why don't you know? So I've read that. Jump. That's a good name. Jump with a P at the end. Would you take the owners of Newcastle over Steve Gibson? Are you having a laugh? Of course I wouldn't. I've got principles and morals and standards. No, I wouldn't. And I don't mean that in a bad... Well, I do mean it in a bad way. No, I'm a Steve Gibson fan. Born and bred in Middlesbrough, self-made millionaire. Backed his to the hilt over the years. I know he's a millionaire now, not a billionaire. So he's probably left a bit behind. But hey, come on. Steve Gibson, what he's done for us. Fantastic training facilities years ago at Hillworth. Won the Carling Cup in 2004. Can you do the same? Brought in some of the biggest names. Emerson, Ravanelli, Janino, Paul Merson, Christian Ziga. The list is endless. Got us to cup finals galore under Brian Robson. So no, I would rather have somebody put us with the devil, you know. And Steve Gibson for me over any overseas businessman. I get the money thing, but you know, I'm not condemning Newcastle. The fans are not into the political side. You know, we get rid of Abramovich at Chelsea and everybody canes him on his way out. He's been here for years. He was allowed in, he was successful, and then supposedly, I don't read the news, watch the news, don't believe any of the hype of the propaganda about Russia and this and that. And I don't believe in it, I don't read it, I'm not interested in it. But I can only presume that because he was pals with Putin or had been seen with him, he was hounded out. But he done brilliant for Chelsea. Financially he was in there. He sacked managers, the ones he replaced were successful. He won numerous trophies, but then he was condemned and booted out. And then we got other ones in. Man City. Nobody really condemns Man City. It's what you had. Don't say you've got morals and standards in Britain, because we've not. I'll class myself in here. We've not, as a country, a nation, we all criticise Qatar. We all knock Qatar about they're against this and against that and they don't do this and people are dying left, right and centre. But we all went. We all took the buck. Don't have to go, but we all went. So, and the big thing we learned about Qatar, whether you like them or not, or like the standards or not, they banned the alcohol, no trouble. Zero trouble. I don't think you'd mess about if you did get in trouble. I don't think you'd be seen again. But no drink, no trouble. Maybe we could learn a wee tip for that. And two more, and that's me definitely finished because I'm a minute over. Sorry. Hi, Benny. Great to have the discussion, North East football. When are the other two join you if you create a Sunderland fan? Well, I've mentioned that. Only money will get they two at the bed. Newcastle, no. That's a good one. Come on, this smoggy land. Are Newcastle going to finish in the top six? If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I'd probably say Newcastle will finish top six. I honestly do that. I honestly think that the way you're playing, I think you maybe buy another player or two now. Newcastle, Oliver. It's no Oliver Twist, is it? Got to pick a pocket or two. Oliver says, do you still see Mark McDonald? Yeah, I do. As I say, I've seen him on the podcast. The last time I seen him was at Amble. A few months ago, there was him and Gary Bennett. And we did a talk up there. And it was good seeing Malcolm and Gary Bennett. I played against Gary many a time. And that's another guy, if you're religious in any way, shape or form, irrespective of who you... the big centre-half, John McPhail. Say a prayer for him as well, because he's not too good. He fell down the stairs or something a while back, and Gatesy, who I was seeing last week, they're trying to raise funds for Big John. So I'm concentrating doing this night with party, but John McPhail, if you're a Sunderland fan, trying to help the big man raise funds, because he needs to be looked after as well. If we don't get anyone in January, Borough Leon, if we don't get anyone in January, we're still good enough to finish in the top six. Well, injuries, loss of form, suspensions, I say that all the time. Anything can happen. Giles gets injured, Akpom gets injured, we've not got replacements. We could miss out. But my gut is right at this minute, if we stay away clear for all that, which there's no guarantees, I think Middlesbrough will finish top six. Carol from the Borough says, Akpom is doing brilliant, Bernie, 13 goals already. Well, he's got 14, Carol. 13 in the league and 1 in the FA Cup. So it's purely league now. He's got 13 and he's got 20 league games to bang in a few more. Dave the Rave, Geordie, do you want to hand over your Borough trophy cabinet, Bernard, with your one trophy in it? Sense a hint of sarcasm there. Look, yeah, we've got one trophy, but it's a recent one. All yours has got dust and cobwebs and the shine's going off them. You've had them for that long. Anyway, if you want it, no, you can't have it. Ryan Fidallo says, what did you make of the game being delayed? I mentioned, I spoke about that. That was another one. Right, listen, thanks very much for joining us. Obviously, I'm trying to get involved in the North East football, try to tempt Darlington fans, Hartlepool, Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Sunderland. I'm intrigued with them all. I was intrigued for ages, then I lost a bit, and now I'm back on it, and I want to concentrate North East football, because when I first arrived, 85-86 season, it was nicknamed the hotbed of football, and then for several years it was the sickbed of football, and I think there's been a big recovery. I think Newcastle's doing brilliant, Middlesbrough's doing well under Carrick, Sunderland doing well under Mowbray, Hartlepool have got a lot still to do, Darlington are top of the league, so it's looking good at the minute. And for now, to me, let's hope we can all do the business. I'd love nothing better to see 3 Sunderland, Newcastle and Middlesbrough in the same league. I love nothing better than derbies from a personal point of view, but I love watching them as well. And the passion and that saying of the working man, those that's fortunate enough to have a job in the modern world, whether a Geordie or a Mackem or a Borough lad, going to work the Monday morning with a spring reception, your team talk to the opposition. I believe that is still the case. Listen, thanks very much. Borough fans, I'm back on Saturday at 6:30 because it's a home game against Millwall. I think it'll be a toughie. I'll be back then, and then my podcast, Total BS, will be on Monday, as it is every Monday. Thanks for watching up the Borough and up Newcastle, up the Mackems, the Darlatonians, I was going to say that doesn't exist, and Hartlepool. Thanks. I'll just get this one right because I always mess this one up and it doesn't go out and then I get shouted at. Post for 30 days. That's that one. And that. And then we can do this one. Thanks for watching.